Was Robert Redford's performance too stiff in the 1972 movie Jeremiah Johnson? If you started this video, you probably like this movie, or at least Redford himself. But criticism of him goes all the way back to when the movie was first released. Let's see what the professional critics and authors had to say, and offer some counter-arguments, including from the actor himself and director Sidney Pollack. Let's start with comments in the 2006 book, The Sundance Kid, a biography of Robert Redford. While not a masterpiece, Jeremiah Johnson is a credible serial comic adventure film that is almost campy at times. The tragic moments are kind of dropped in unsentimentally, which strips these scenes of needed emotion. Redford looks good in a full beard, and he is not bad, albeit miscast, in a role that would probably have better suited the stoic and older Robert Mitchum. So the author wanted a more stoic character? Let's talk about that next. Redford is not quite up to the scene in which he finds his family dead. I'm not sure what he meant by not quite up to. The discovery of his dead family starts with a look of shock. He drops to his knees to check on them, one after the other. He looks around in disbelief, then sits down and stares at nothing, still shaking. Hours later, he is calmer but still catatonic. All night he stares at his ruined family, his ruined home. And the next morning he is still frozen in grief. Didn't the book author say he wanted a stoic hero? Would he have preferred Jeremiah Johnson let out a scream? We've seen that in plenty of movies. Sometimes it's heroic. Sometimes it's tragic. And sometimes it's unintentionally funny. But I'll take 2 minutes of powerful emotions over 15 seconds of screaming any time. The quiet before the storm made the storm more powerful, followed by a physical and emotional collapse that made sense. So no, the quiet acting did just fine pulling us into the character's suffering. The author did have some compliments for other actors in the movie. Will Greer is superb as Bearclaw. I hope we can all agree with that. His character reminds me of Walter Houston in The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, where he plays a quirky, cheerful, and wise old mentor. And there are other flavorful performances by character actors who fit the basic tone and style of the piece far better than Redford does. Jeremiah Johnson got many respectful and positive notices, with Judith Crist opining in New York that the film was a poetic legend, a ballad-like epic of man and nature. Redford got high marks for his performance from many reviewers, although some saw him as just being on a historical "I'm not just a pretty boy" kick. But at least 2 prominent critics, who had never been carried away with Redford's acting, or at least had been disillusioned by him, went on the attack. Joseph Gelmus of Newsday, who liked the film, devoted much of his review to Redford's acting style, or lack of it. He complained that Redford is Redford, and mocked how his style of speaking was allegedly inconsistent from scene to scene, and asserted that he was one of those lightweight talents who go a long way on looks, and on knowing when to turn up the thermostat on his clean-cut, boyish, California surfer sex. In his opinion, Redford was saved by supporting actors and by spectacular views. He even felt that Redford didn't have much charisma. Blue eyes aren't enough, Bob, because to us you'll always be the aging ingenue. There were many who agreed with some of Gelmus's assessments, but Redford's fans would have argued vociferously about his alleged lack of charisma. Pauline Kael of The New Yorker entered the fray and attacked Redford's habit of underplaying, which she wrote seemed lazy and cautious and self-protective. She suggested that he needed to open up, to stop playing old-style star games when the rules had changed. Probably young audiences can no longer relate to what the Westerner stood for. But they are supposed to like Redford because he's so sheepish and silent and straight? Hell, so was Lassie. There are no depths in Redford that he's willing to reveal. His cool is just modern, existential chic. You can find the New Yorker's review on Rotten Tomatoes. And the book author adds, What particularly irked Redford about Cale's review was not the attack on his acting, or so he said, so much as her misreading of the final scene when he confronts an Indian warrior across the distance, and the two look at and signal to each other with a certain respect despite their mutual hatred. Cale wrote that Redford simply gave the Indian the finger. This criticism really bothered the hell out of me, Redford recalled, because of my respect and feelings for the American Indian. I thought this was a case of a critic being completely irresponsible, simply disregarding what was actually up there on the screen just to embellish a personal attack. Disgraceful. Rotten Tomatoes has a link to the full review in the 1977 book, Reeling. And her criticism of the movie is even worse than what I've quoted here, but I'll spare you the gruesome details. Despite all the criticism, the film still maintains a respectable audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Now let's hear from Redford himself and director Sydney Pollack, as documented in the 2011 book Robert Redford, The Biography. In Jeremiah Johnson, Pollack observed a finessed focus. He, Redford, surprised me. Camera shooting started and he retreated inside himself. So much of it was mime. And to mime, you need some extraordinary composure, because if you are going to be self-conscious, this is where it will all show. I got the impression he was here in the canyon for all the right reasons, and the relaxation, that honesty, took him to this very, very calm place. Everything became minimalistic, very contained. I did not direct that pacing. He did. For me, he became another kind of actor on that picture, a far more internal actor, and I always tried afterward to tap into that place. You don't act a movie like Jeremiah Johnson, says Redford. It becomes an experience, into which you fit and flow. It was grueling, and I was changed by it, no question. We recreated a way of life that real people lived in these real mountains, the same now as they were then. You learn by immersing yourself in their reality. Pollack's notes concluded with a quote from a Newsweek article about Redford. A new movie hero has emerged. Alienated by mainstream American values, searching for his identity as he moves across the face of America. These new heroes are often losers whose heroism is measured not in their ability to triumph, but to survive. What do you think? Do you agree with the critics on any of their points? Let us know in the comments. And rest in peace, Robert Redford. Please like this video and see the link in the description below to watch Jeremiah Johnson.